Hi, this is Dr. Mike. Today I want to talk to you about the composition of bread. One of the fun things about bread is it is so simple because it is only made of 3 separate ingredients. That's it. And it makes it all of those different types of beautiful breads that you can make are made out of these 3 separate ingredients. First of all, it's made out of, you do need some sort of leavening agent, okay? And for a leavening agent, we use a natural sourdough starter, which is just made up of flour and water that is fermented. And in one of the next few lessons, we'll talk to you about how to create your own sourdough starter. And if you live close, I'd be more than happy to give you some as well. Okay, so having some fermented sourdough starter, which is just flour and water, is very important. But again, and again, we've got flour, water, and salt. And so I wanted to talk about each one of these very briefly. First of all is flour. Flour is made up of two different components. One is the starch or the carbohydrate, and the other component is the protein. And that protein we refer to as gluten. And gluten is very important for creating that stretch in the dough that allows for, the way I think about it is, as you form that gluten, it forms like little balloons in the dough that allows air to expand the dough, and that's how you get that nice aerated dough, or that nice aerated bread, is because of that nice gluten. And it also gives bread that wonderful chewy texture. Sometimes we don't want a lot of gluten in our baked goods. So for example, a cake flour has very low gluten, and a bread flour or a strong flour has a much higher gluten content. And so what are the ranges of different gluten contents? Gluten will range anywhere from about 5% of the weight of the flour to up to about 15%. A nice cake flour, which is, you don't want your cakes to be too chewy, you want them to be a light textured thing. So most cake flours are about 8% protein. On the other hand, our all-purpose flour is normally between about 9, 10, 11% protein. And then a good bread flour is anywhere from about 12 to 15% protein. And so the bread flour that I use is between about 13 and 14% protein, and we'll show you how to calculate that right now. So if you come and look at the nutritional facts, you can see that the serving size is 1/4 cup, and there are 30 grams in 1/4 cup. And then if you come down and see that in one serving there are 4 grams of protein, if you divide 4 divided by 30, you get that between 13 and 14%, and that's how you can tell what the percentage of protein content that you have in your bread flour. The next ingredient, if you will, in bread is water. And water is not very complicated, it's a very simple ingredient. The one thing that's important with water is that this starter is a little bit fragile. You don't want to put hot water into your dough, because if you put hot water in it, it can kill the natural yeast in the starter, and you won't get that good rise in your bread. So, and the other thing is if you put cold water into your dough, then the dough will rise very, very slowly, and it can be a frustrating experience too. So you want just the right temperature. The right temperature, if you've got an instant read thermometer, is about 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So you can see here, this water right here is 75, and if I were going to use it to make dough, I would get water that's just a little bit warmer. Remember that our body is at 98.7 degrees, and so when we feel water under the tap, if it feels warm, it's probably too warm. It should be kind of a lukewarm temperature to the touch, but if you have an instant read thermometer, it can be very, very helpful. Finally, salt is a very important ingredient in making bread and for the flavor. And we will talk about the exact ratios of how much salt to put in our next video, but it's important to put the right amount of salt in. So that's it. These are the ingredients for making bread, and in the next video, we're going to talk about creating your own bread recipes by understanding the ratios of these different ingredients in order to create the perfect bread.